Hey, what's up guys? Steel City Dashcam here. I never got to post a video announcing this on YouTube, but I made a post on Instagram asking for questions regarding an AMA. So I looked for car-specific questions and got some car-specific questions from people messaging me on Instagram, as well as from friends who watch my content, IRL. And so I'm just going to kind of go through some car-related questions, whether it's my cars, the cars I drive, but if it's featured in this video, it's pretty much fair game, or in these videos, rather. So, the first question, which I actually came up with because I feel like this is a good place to start, is what's the current vehicle situation in terms of, like, what vehicles are actually included in these compilations? And there's a lot. I'll start with the personal vehicles, so obviously there's the Pilot when that thing's running. There's the Mazda I'm currently in, and I counted my roommate's Tacoma, even though there has not really been any footage in it, because whenever I ride with him, there will be footage in it. Then there is, in terms of freelance work, you've seen in the past, and you might occasionally see in the future, 16-foot Chevy box truck, and I believe it's a 2014 or 15 Ram 2500. Might be slightly newer than that, actually. And that one sometimes, often when I'm driving it, does have a trailer. And then with my current company, we have 3 26-foot Freightliner box trucks. Those are the Mercedes-powered ones. We have 2 2023 F750 26-foot box trucks. And we have 1, I don't know the year, we just acquired it, Hino 26-foot box truck. That's a bit more of a low-profile one. 26 foot, but it's about a foot lower than the other ones are. We have 3 20-foot box trucks that I've regularly driven in these videos, and that is a GMC K-Series box truck. That's one of the cab-over ones with the really weird lift gates, so the lift gate is the whole back of the truck, or the whole door of the truck. There is a 2005 Chevy box truck. And then there is a 2015 Isuzu box truck that is the one that's based off the Chevy. They look practically identical. And all 3 of those are 20-footers. We have 2 16-footers, both of which are Isuzu NRR box trucks. One is like practically new. The other one's a little bit more well loved. We have a 14-foot Chevy box truck for now. That's probably not lasting much longer. Come May, that thing's not going to pass inspection again, so we're probably going to dump it by then. Then in terms of vans, there's 2 2017-ish Ford Transits. They are the high roof, what's the model number? 2500, 2250. I think it's the 250 is what they use. There's a Transit Connect. It's about a 2016. There's an E-Transit that I haven't actually driven yet, but will be featured eventually because I know I'm going to get sent on something with it. And an F-150 Lightning, even though I know that's not under van. That just popped in my head when we're talking electric. That we just picked up as well. Back to vans, there's also an old 2010 Chevy Express that is also in its final days. It just got its catalytic converter stolen and already wasn't going to pass inspection next time around, so it might just stay that way. And a 2020 Ford Transit passenger van, like a 15 passenger big van. That one's one of the low roof 350s. In terms of pickups, there's 2 F250s. New. When I say newer, I'm talking all of these are between 2010 and 2018. 2 F250s, an F250X, an F350, an F150, the Lightning, obviously. We have a 2022 Maverick Hybrid, and an F250 dump truck. That one's slightly older, probably late noughts, early 2010s. And that wraps it up for what actual vehicles there are. Now, speaking of that stuff, what's my least favorite vehicle to drive? And this is an interesting question with an interesting answer because you would not expect it out of all the vehicles. But one of our box trucks in particular, one of the 3 Freightliner 26s, is the slowest fucking thing I've ever driven. The other ones can at least get up to speed. This one, if you have anything in it, even if you don't, if you're going up a steep enough hill, that thing's not going more than 35 miles an hour. And the other ones aren't like that. So we don't know if the turbo's going bad. That one's apparently always been pretty slow, but I hate driving that thing because you have to double whatever your trip is. It just will not go. And my least favorite thing about driving the trucks is just that some of them are so... It's not so much that they're slow, it's that they don't have the top end to actually get up to speed. And it just kind of... It sucks because, like, you know, I can handle not driving quick. I drive quick in my cars, but I can handle not driving quick. But when I cannot get to even close to the speed limit, that's when it frustrates me. And then we have our Chevy Express van is also a tied for least favorite because that thing feels like it's falling apart underneath me. My least favorite thing about the Mazda and the Pilot were two other questions I got. The Pilot, my least favorite thing right now is that it doesn't run. But when it runs, the fact that I didn't know when something was, nothing would break, but I'd never know when something was going to, and it would feel like something's going to break or the car is going to start running like shit. Things like that. And I just didn't like the anxiety of, okay, is it going to get me where I need to go, especially on longer drives. I'm not so much concerned about that now that it's not my main car, and I won't really take it when I need to be taking my main car somewhere, but that is still my main cause for concern. My least favorite thing about the Mazda, honestly, has to be... that's a good question. I really should have thought of this a bit beforehand, because honestly, I don't really have many complaints. I'd say my only real complaint would be the power situation in this car, where I have one cigarette lighter, so I had to buy an extra dock just to have multiple things plugged in, because the USB slot that's built into the car practically does not charge your phone. And if I'm running GPS or something, I still lose charge while it's plugged in and supposedly charging. Beyond that, I don't really have any other complaints. I like it. That's pretty much all there is to it. And speaking of those cars, the fuel economy of them. This Mazda, gets, my average, I believe, is 32, and that's with majority city. Typically, highway, I get anywhere between 36 and 48. 48 being more common when I go out east, or when I'm, like, you know, leaving the Pittsburgh area, because they're pretty high up. But around Pittsburgh, I'd say I average about 34 to 35 on any given day. The Pilot, on the other hand, is fuel injectors, and you can tell when you check the fuel economy on it, because the Pilot gets about 11 when it runs. Obviously, as has been mentioned, it does not currently run, but when it does, it gets 11. And that's about the same city and highway. It burns so much fuel, it's unreal. It smells like it. You can tell it's just an old car. It has leaky injectors that are to the point where they really should be replaced, and that is part of why it's not running, is I'm taking the engine apart to do all of those things. So yeah, this car is pretty fuel efficient. The Pilot very much is not. That was a big contributing factor into why I purchased this vehicle. But yeah, now back to things I've driven. The weirdest car I've driven is actually for work. We also have mobile bars as part of our company, and we have a 1960s Econoline van, like old Ford 50s, 60s van, with a bunch of bar taps on the back and beer kegs in it. Now, granted, I only drove it around the warehouse, but you could drive in our warehouse. Yeah, I've driven that thing. It's fun. It's a neat little thing to be driving. And in terms of weirdest cars I've ridden in, that's actually not the weirdest, because this was another question that was asked by the same person. Weirdest car I've ridden in is actually a Honda Civic chopped into a pickup truck, lifted with smokestacks, a V6 swap, a J35, so the same engine the Pilot has, among other things. So that car was Frankenstein. I'm still friends with the person who owns it too. He just has not, or who owned it rather. He has not owned it in a couple of years. It's probably been 4 or 5 years. I met him in 2018 when he had that thing, and he had gotten rid of it by 2019. Sorry, I'm trying to glance over and look at what my next question is. So, in terms of the driving, I think that's pretty much all the questions that were asked in terms of what vehicles I actively drive. In terms of like the dash camming stuff, I was asked what was my biggest personal mistake. And I think I have two that I would chalk up as biggest. One was here in Pittsburgh, after a big windstorm, some traffic lights spun, and it looked like I had a green light from the perspective I was coming from, and I did not. It was at night. I went through, luckily saw the car coming that actually had the green light, and slammed on the brakes and missed them. But yeah, I mean, even though the traffic light spun, it's my fault. One light point in my direction still showed red, so I should have proceeded with a bit more caution than normal roadway speeds. My other biggest personal mistake was actually out in Harrisburg when I was a new driver. Getting on the highway, changed lanes to pass the car merging in front of me slowly without looking, and almost pinched somebody into the Jersey barrier. It's a live and learn thing. I waved sorry, they waved, so, shit happens. I've definitely been getting better at that mentality lately, where, shit happens. It's a little bit harder to irritate me while I'm driving, so that's always a good thing. And as far as I would say the closest call I've had with someone hitting me without actually hitting me, because I've been hit. The closest call was probably, the one that stands out was driving through Schenley Park. Or not Schenley Park, Schenley Plaza, which is near Pitt's campus. When a car pulled out from the parking spot next to me as I was next to them, and I had to, within half a second, swerve into the opposing lane and slam on the brakes. That, or there was probably the moment, I didn't get this on camera, but I still feel it's worth telling. Back when I was driving an orange Saturn, back when I lived in Harrisburg, I was on the turnpike, the car spun out behind me and missed my back bumper by about 2 inches when they wrecked. Missed my front bumper by about 2 inches when they wrecked. They hit the Jersey barrier, or the guardrail, like in the middle of the grass median, and then missed me going behind me as well. They were okay. It was interesting. The guy was super like, whatever, it happens. I waited for police and everything to show up with him, but he was uninjured. But that's probably the other closest call. In terms of the wrecks, I've obviously caught a good handful on video, mostly minor fender benders, but I did catch that one on the Parkway with the U-Haul truck. I got rear-ended myself, and the car that rear-ended me got totaled while I was left with a dent in my tailgate and a repaired alignment, because my alignment was off before the hit. I got the car looked at after the hit by the insurance company, and they said there's no alignment issues. So they actually somehow hit me perfectly to reset my alignment, and I wish I could make that up. The alignment is now way off on that vehicle again because components were going bad. But anyway. So that's that. That's actually the only question that was asked regarding the driving specifically on my channel. So that being said, the other questions are now related to just cars in general. One car that I really want that's attainable. I'm going to assume attainable would mean if I had $25,000 in cash, I could buy this thing or finance this thing right now. And if we're talking a new car, I really want, as much as I don't want to own a Ford, I want the new Bronco. My coworker has one. I've seen it. I've been in it. It is incredibly nice. I love how it drives. I love the aftermarket support and capabilities for it. I would love to do something with that. As far as a not new car, there's a lot of JDM and KDM I'd be looking at. But I would mostly be looking along the lines of like a Toyota Delica, or a Mitsubishi Delica, or Toyota Hiace, or Town Ace, or something like that, like a weird van, but like one of the lifted kind of more cab over vans. I would also, oddly enough, want a Dustbuster, or Duster. I call them Dustbusters. The Duster platform vans. I want like an old Lumina van. My grandparents both had them. I would love to lower and slam one of those door stops. I'd also be okay with a Previa, specifically a turbocharged stick shift, because they exist, and I would love to slam a bean as well. That would be pretty cool. And sort of jumping to a different kind of question, honestly. Well, not really, because I mentioned my plans for some of these vehicles, but what are my plans for my cars? The Pilot, my plans are a bit more absurd. Once I get it back up and running, my goal is to basically overland it, but in the dumbest way possible, where I want to lift it. I want to do a PVC snorkel straight out the fender. I want to do a full license plate body kit and skid plate. I want to take the doors off and do it Jeep style, and I want to leave the bottom half of the tailgate with hinges on the sides and put the hub that I have from a Honda CR-V and rear mount the spare tire. Beyond that, I mean, the interior is gutted. I kind of want to, I don't know, maybe make it usable as a hauling vehicle again as well. Other dumb stuff. I mean, the list goes on, because that's the kind of car where I could just come up with something dumb and be like, I want to do this, and then just do it. As far as the Mazda, I want to do a basic performance tune, some sort of chip, I don't know. I want to do a transmission controller, because, yeah, I have manual mode, but I want to control how it works when I'm driving auto. I want to do an intake. I want to do... I need to look into the aftermarket support for manifolds, for headers. I want to do a full catback. I want, obviously, nicer wheels and then keep these steel ones to put winter tires on them. But I want to up to like 17. I have leave 16s on this. I want to go up to 17s. I want to lower it, do a full suspension overhaul, control arms, springs, shocks, struts, everything. Coilovers probably to lower it, if not actual lowering springs, but I don't want to do any of the super cheap methods. I want like good coilovers, or I want good lowering springs. I want to do a full body kit, like the aftermarket official body kit, and all that kind of stuff. I want to maybe do up carbon fiber hood, couple other just some little weight reduction things on things that are not absurd to do. As far as the interior, I actually want to mostly leave it alone, and I know I'm missing something that I've been telling myself I want to do to the thing. A wing. But I don't want to do the wing until I do some actual performance mods to it, so I'm not going to be one of those people. And yeah, that's pretty much my current plan. That's all subject to change. This person is intent on shooting in front of me on the screen. Go fuck yourself. And anyway, the last question that I actually have was along the lines of, what other vehicles do I think have been featured most in my videos? So overall, I think it's actually my old roommate Sam at 6th Gear Auto. His Sentra SER Spec V that he had for a long time when he was living with me, because we rode in that thing a lot. Second place, probably more recent, would be Ford Transit that I drive with FlySpace, because I've driven that one quite a bit. But honestly, a lot of the FlySpace vehicles, it kind of depends, because especially from the footage, I can't remember what exact vehicle I was in. But a lot of the FlySpace vehicles are probably up there. Also kind of up there would be the old 2003 Chevy S10 that I was holding on to for my friend, because I drove that a fair bit, especially when the Pilot was down and out. I drove that. And I think beyond that, there's probably a decent handful of clips still in the Saturn Vue, the orange one. But it's been so long and that car doesn't even exist anymore, so I frankly couldn't tell you how much came from that. And it's been so long that other vehicles have definitely eclipsed it. But yeah, I gotta say, I think the number one overall is the Spec V. The number one recent is probably the Ford Transit with work. But there's no telling for sure, and there's a lot of vehicles that have been featured. It's also a good handful in my friend's Volkswagen Golf, but I don't think that number comes close to any of the other vehicles I've listed. So, I would say probably Sam's Spec V. In fact, his Altima has probably been featured more than some of the vehicles I've listed. So yeah, that actually wraps up the questions that have been asked of me to answer. So that being said, expect another AMA sometime soon. This one relating more to the audio and personal side of things, whereas this one was more the car stuff. That being said, thanks for listening. Hopefully you got some cool info out of this. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I just did this because people ask questions, and it's fun to answer them, especially when I had the sticker car. It was normal to get so many questions. I might do a specific one to the sticker car and the plans for that and how that's going along, but that's a bridge we'll cross when we get there. So that being said, thanks for watching. I will see you guys in the next video.